Okay, so dealing with 45, 45, 90 triangles, I'm going to draw that model here up at the top, and I recommend you do the same on your paper. Draw this model up at the top of your paper. So we have our square root, not square root, right angle, 45, 45, 90. What do we know about the two legs? They're the same. And then what do we know about the hypotenuse? Square root of 2. Yep. And then we know our legs are the same, so I'm going to circle those. Okay? So looking at number 1, first you want to ask yourself, what does it give you? How many options do we have? We have 2 options. You either have the leg or you have the hypotenuse. Which one does it give us? The leg. Okay? Circle your legs. Square root of 2, what's my other leg? And what's the other leg? Y, right? So we know those have to be the same. So since I know this one's the square root of 2, what's y? Square root of 2. Okay, and you can write your answers right next to that side. You don't have to write y equals square root of 2. You can just write it right next to the triangle. Okay, so now we have to look for x. How do we get from the leg to the hypotenuse? Yep, if we're going to it, we're going to multiply by the square root of 2. So I'm going to take square root of 2 times the square root of 2. Which equals the square root of 4, and then the square root of 4 is 2. That just gave us our hypotenuse. Okay? So, start by asking, what does it give you? And then if it helps, even start by circling your legs first, and then you'll know. Okay, so let's try that on number 2. Circle your legs. Everyone go circle your legs. Which ones are the legs on number 2? X and Y are our legs. Okay, so what did it give us? It gave us the hypotenuse. How do we go from the hypotenuse back to the leg? Right, if we're going backwards, we have to do the opposite, which is divide. So I'm going to take the square root of 2. What am I dividing by? The square root of 2. Am I going to use any other number with these triangles? No. Okay? Here, what happens?
You have a radical on the bottom, so you have to times it by itself.
Right, we have a radical on the bottom, but is there an easier way we can do this on this one?
Just cancel each other.
Right, they cancel each other out, so we're left with 0 or 1. We're left with 1. So what did that just give us? What side length? It gave us a leg, right? Well, what do we know about x and y? They have to be the same. So they're both 1. Okay. What if we started with 1? We started with the leg. How do I go to the hypotenuse? We multiply by the square root of 2. Well, what's 1 times the square root of 2? What's 1 times anything? 1 times the square root of 2 is? Square root of 2. And is that what our hypotenuse is? Yep. Okay. Let's look at number 3 first before I have you try some on your own. First, circle your legs. Which ones are my legs? X and Y are my legs. Okay. So what does it give us? Gives you the hypotenuse. So how do we go from the hypotenuse back to the leg? Divide by square root of 2. So I'm going to take 2 square root of 6 divided by the square root of 2. Now, something we haven't talked about before. Does anybody know how I can simplify that without going through all the multiplying? What'd you say? Okay, what'd you say? Okay. Can we simplify this 2 and 2? No, why not?
They're not the same.
They're not both radicals. Well, what about these 2 radicals? Can we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, what does that turn into?
2 square root of 3.
Right, take 2, and then we can divide our radicals. Square root of 6 divided by the square root of 2 is square root of 3. Just like multiplying, when we had 2 radicals multiplied together, they made 1 radical. Same thing with dividing. Okay? Now, can I simplify that at all?
No.
Nope. What did that just give us?
The leg.
That gave us the leg. Well, what do we know about the legs?
They're both the same.
They're both the same. Good. Okay, let's look at number 4. Circle your legs. What'd you circle? The Y and the 9. Well, what do you know about those two? They're the same. So if one's 9, what's the other one? 9. Okay? And then what do we still have to look for? We have to look for the hypotenuse. How do I go from the leg to the hypotenuse? Times by square root of 2. What is my answer when I multiply those two together? Right, good. 9 square root of 2. Why is it not square root of 18? Because they're not both radicals. Okay, so we have to keep them separate. And that just gave us our x, or our hypotenuse. Okay? Go ahead and try 5 through 8 on your own. So looking at number 5, what's the first thing I want you to do?
Circle the side.
Circle your legs. Which one is our legs on number 5? 5 and B. Those are our legs. Okay, so since I circled them, what do I know about them? They're the same. So if this side's 5, the other side is also 5. Okay, so now what are we looking for? Hypotenuse. How do I go from the leg to the hypotenuse? Multiply by square root of 2. If I'm multiplying a whole number and a square root,
It's 5 square root of 2.
they just go together. 5 square root of 2. So that is our A value. Okay? So the whole point for circling the legs is to help us realize and remember that they're the same. Okay, so looking at number 6, which ones are our legs? Y and
4 square root of 2.
4 square root of 2. Yep, remember the hypotenuse is across from that right angle. So since I circled them, what do I know about them? They're the same. So this one is also 4 square root of 2. Now what are we looking for? The hypotenuse. How do I go from the leg to the hypotenuse?
By square root of 2.
Yep, so we have 4 square root of 2 times the square root of 2. Highly recommend writing it out so you can see it. Okay, what happens to that whole number out in front? Stays out in front. What does my new radical become?
4.
Square root of 4. Can I keep going?
Yeah.
Yep. 4, and then what's the square root of 4? 2, which gives you 8. So 8 is our hypotenuse. Okay, when you write your answers, please help me out. Write them either by the triangle or label them. Okay. What about number 7? What's the first thing we need to do?
Sides.
Circle your legs. Which ones?
3 square root of 2 and y.
3 square root of 2 and y. I circled them, so what do I know about them?
They're the same.
They're the same. 3 square root of 2. How do I get from the leg to the hypotenuse?
Multiply by square root of 2.
Multiply by square root of 2. So I have 3 square root of 2 times the square root of 2. What happens to that whole number? Nothing, it stays. What does my radical become? 4. So I have 3. What's the square root of 4? 2. And I get 6. Good. Yep. Remember last week we worked on simplifying radicals? You want to keep doing that. Okay? Last one on this front page is number 8. You should like these ones. Is there a lot going on with these?
No.
Not really. Okay? Circle your legs. Which ones are our legs?
8 and y.
8 and y. So what's y? Y is 8. And then how do I go from the leg to the hypotenuse?
Multiply by square root of 2.
Yep. 8 times the square root of 2, which gives me
8 square root of 2.
8 square root of 2. Those should be your favorites. Okay? Any questions on that front page before I move on to the back?
No.
Okay. Back.
We skipped 11.
Let's look at number 9. Okay, still do the same thing. Circle your legs. Which ones are our legs? Y and X. Then ask yourself, what does it give us? What does it give us? It gives us the hypotenuse. So, if it gives us the hypotenuse, we have to go back to our starting point or our leg, how do we go backwards? Divide by square root of 2. Yep, so take 4 square root of 2 divided by the square root of 2. Okay, what happens here? Right, those square roots of 2, they can cancel each other out, so we're just left with 4. What did that just give us? The legs, right? Both of them. They're both 4. Okay. Let's look at number 10. What about number 10? Circle your legs. What are our legs? X and Y. So what does it give us?
The hypotenuse.
The hypotenuse. How do I go backwards?
Divide by square root of 2.
Yep. To go from hypotenuse back to the leg, I have to divide by the square root of 2. Now how do I solve this? Right, can I have a radical on the bottom?
No.
No, I got to get rid of that radical on the bottom, so I multiply by what?
2.
Square root of 2, right? Not just 2, square root of 2. Multiply straight across, what do I get on the top? 5 square root of 2, and then what do I get on the bottom?
4 or just 2.
Square root of 4. Okay, my top stays the same. What does my bottom turn into? 2. Now let me ask, can I cancel out that square root of 2 and 2? No, why not?
They're not radical.
Because they're not both radicals. Good. So what did that just give us?
The leg.
That gave us the leg, and what do we know about the other one? They're the same. Good. Awesome. Questions? Don't do 11. Is there any other ones on this page that you want me to go over?
No.
The rest of them on that page are pretty similar to the 2 that we just did. 16? Okay, I can do that. So circle the legs. Which ones are our legs? X and Y. So what does it give us?
5 square root of 2.
Gives us the hypotenuse. How do I go backwards?
Divide.
Divide by,
Square root of 2.
so take 5 square root of 2 divided by the square root of 2. What's nice about this one?
Cancel it out, it's 5.
Yep, the square roots cancel out, so we're just left with 5. So 5 is our X and 5 is our Y. Like I said, please either write your answers next to the letters on the triangle or rewrite them X equals 5, Y equals 5. Questions? All right.